I'm here to give some necessary information about IELTS listening exam and share some strategies and tips about how to prepare for it. To get a score over 6 in IELTS listening exam, you need to understand what is expected from you. The information I'll present now will help you to understand exactly what is required from you, what they expect from you. Now, here we go. Okay, let's start with the exam format. First of all, both general training and academic IELTS students take the same listening exam. The exam is exactly same. You can listen only once, so you cannot turn back and listen again. That's why timing is very much important. Don't forget, you will have time to look at the questions before the recording begins in each part, and you will have time to check your answers at the end as well. The IELTS listening test lasts around 30 minutes, and there are 40 questions in total, which means each question carries 1 mark. Do not leave any question unanswered because there is no penalty for wrong answers. The test is divided into 4 parts. The questions gets progressively more difficult as the test goes on. So the first module, the first part is the easiest one, and the last part is the most difficult one. Nothing is repeated in the listening section, don't forget that. If you miss an answer, you will not have a chance to go back and listen for the answer again. So don't waste time, don't waste your time worrying about it. Just keep moving ahead and answer all the questions that you can. Meanwhile, be careful about the instructions. They are very much important because you will have word limitations. The question may limit you to use 2 words, 3 words, or a word and a number, and etc. So be careful to answer the questions according to these instructions. That's really important. Okay, as I said before, there are 4 parts in listening exam. In part 1, you'll listen to a conversation between 2 speakers about everyday social situations. This is the easiest section because the speaker talks quite slowly. They make a lot of pauses. The key information is usually repeated. You may listen to 2 people talking about their journey planning, or one person asking about some questions to the other person about an unknown city. A woman may be giving advice to her colleague about a new project, or 2 men discussing results of a football match, or a tourist registering at a hotel. So the dialogues are about daily issues, social issues. The questions are, you either complete a form, or you complete a table, or you choose answers from a list, and there are approximately 10 questions in this module. In part 2, you will listen to a monologue about everyday situations. Again, it is about daily situations, but this time it's not a dialogue. There is only one person speaking. The speaker talks quite slowly, but makes less pauses than the previous part. The issues discussed in this part cover information for potential buyers about new build flats, radio interview about lake resort, advertisement about positive effects of a new toothbrush or a new product, anything like that. You might be asked to complete sentences, or label a diagram or a plan or a map, or give a short answer to the question. Again, be careful about the instruction because you need to know how many words you will write in each question. In part 3, the topic is completely academic. There is a conversation between 2, 3, or sometimes 4 speakers about educational or training situations. This section, as I said, is almost always about education. For example, students and the tutor talking about an assignment can be asked. So you had better learn all the vocabulary you can about studying at the university. This may help you to understand this section better. This section is a bit harder than the 2 previous ones because speakers discuss the topics at a faster pace and sometimes they may use some advanced vocabulary. In this module, you answer multiple choice questions, labeling a diagram or matching words and phrases mostly. And like the other 3 or 4 parts, there will be almost 10 questions. In this last section, you listen to a talk or a lecture on academic subjects. This is the most difficult section because there is no break in the middle. The speaker talks quite quickly and uses a wide range of vocabulary. Yes, you will listen to a lecture about any topics. For example, you can listen to a lecture about endangered species, talk on bringing up children, speech about global warming and its effects, lecture about forest reserves. So you need to know quite a lot of information about various subjects to be able to keep listening and understanding. The questions are mostly classifying words or statements, completing some notes, or sometimes completing a flow chart. As I said before, this is the last one, the longest one, and I can say that the most difficult one. There are almost 10 questions like the other parts as well. And this is the last part of the listening exam in IELTS. After such a general information about the IELTS listening exam, let's talk a little bit about how to prepare for it. First of all, you should set a realistic goal for yourself. And don't forget, there is no fast remedy for it. There is no shortcut. You cannot progress from low level to high level overnight. Like all the other skills, becoming proficient in a language takes a lot of time and effort. That's why you need to plan a listening routine and you shouldn't change it. You should stick to it. Every day, you should allocate a certain period of time to listen. And while listening, you had better listen to different materials every day. For instance, you can listen to a podcast one day, you can listen to 15 minutes of a news another day, or you can listen to a song or watch some clips and videos. And please, sometimes do repeat the listening materials twice, 3 times, 4 times until you memorize some parts of it. And listen to something which interests you, because boring materials and subjects will stop your listening completely. And it's better to choose listening materials that fit your level. For example, if you can understand less than 50% of the audio, it means it is too difficult for you. And if you can understand over 90% of the audio, it means it's too easy for you. That's why you should find some audios, some texts that suits your level. TED Talks are a great way to practice academic listening meanwhile. And I'll share some useful pages for listening activities at the end of this presentation. Okay, listening to the same materials for a few times, as I said before, will improve your listening. But in this repetition, maybe you should change the speed. Yeah, you can listen to a faster uh, type of the same audio. Nowadays, the computers and the mobile phones give you such a chance. And another important point that you should be careful, you should do before taking the exam is to learn how to take notes. Because note taking is very crucial in listening, because especially for longer listening parts, it is not possible to keep all the information in mind, because they sometimes include some kind of names and data in some kind of statistics and information, names, proper names, numbers. That's why it's really impossible to keep all of them in mind. You should learn how to take notes. Meanwhile, this is a really long issue to discuss. It's not possible to talk about it briefly here. I'll prepare a presentation about note taking as well. Okay. Uh, the other point that I need to talk about is the unknown vocabulary issue. Don't forget, there will always be some unfamiliar words in all contexts, in all texts, whether it is audio or written. What you should do is to read and listen various subjects while preparing. Don't worry too much about unfamiliar words. If you hear something which is repeated in different sources several times, you had better look it up in the dictionary and study it and learn it. But if you hear something unknown, don't just concentrate on the word itself, but try to grasp the whole meaning. But when you come across the unknown words during the exam, just try to guess it and grasp the whole meaning. If you can't, there's nothing to do. You should pass and you should try to understand the overall meaning of the text. If you try to catch every single word, then you will miss the whole message. That's why concentrate on the overall message of Giorgio. Okay, before each section, as I said before, you are given time to read the instruction, read the questions. You should use this time sensibly and read the questions carefully, but not too slowly, or the recording will start before you have finished reading. And please try to guess the answers and the questions and what kind of word you need to find. Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective? So this kind of information will help you as well. Uh, um, yes, you should try to guess the questions. You should listen for words indicators such as however, but, then, finally, because they help you to anticipate what the speaker will say. Then it will be easier to guess questions that you haven't answered. This is really important, especially important for yes, no, or don't know questions, as the chance of you getting the right answer by chance is pretty high. Okay, so you should, as I said before, focus on the overall message and do not get frustrated about the detail. And if you didn't hear words, don't worry. Leave them blank and focus on the actual part. Review this question at the end of the section, otherwise you will miss some more questions. Okay. Um, well, maybe there is one more point to discuss. It is plugging in the situation, by which I mean you should try to get an idea of the situation. Imagine the plot before each part, because you will be given a short introduction saying, now you will hear a dialogue between blah blah, or you will hear a lecture on this and that. So this information is not written on the question paper, so be attentive, be careful about it. You should try to understand who the speakers are, why they are speaking, and where they are. This will make understanding the rest of the recording much easier for you. All right, this is the end of our presentation. Don't forget, there is no shortcut to improve listening, to learn a language. The more you listen, the better and easier you understand. Thus, keep listening regularly. So, as I said before, I have listed some useful web pages for you. You can look at those pages and make some practices.